So the game start with French defense and white play d3. This is not a common move. Usually white play d4 and white play d3 instead, and I assume white is going to move the light square bishop from g2. Otherwise, the bishop will be blocked by the d3 pawn. So we keep pushing pawn. That's good. That's what we want to do. That's the reason we push the pawn to e6, knight d2, and c5. Now I think black is slightly better because we have more space at center and we have very good pawn structure at center. Knight c6, g3. Yeah, this is what I said. White is moving bishop to g2, and we divide knight, divide bishop, castle, castle, knight h4. I think the purpose of a knight h4 is quite clear, pushing the pawn to f4. And the question is, where should black to develop or attack white pieces? Should we attack on the king side or should we attack on the queen side? And I would say, in general, in French defense, because black has a larger space at the queen side than king side, so it makes us easier to attack on the queen side. So, for example, I will move rook to b8 and b5 and keep pushing pawns, and bishop a6 to attack on b3. So this is I will set up a plan to attack my opponent. So in this case, we play rook e8, preparing white taking the pawn, and we will control the open file. But I will say, if I play as white, I will not take the pawn if I don't have a reason, because if I take the pawn, the e6 pawn is moving to the center and open up this diagonal. It only favors black, so I will not open. Maybe I will like close the center if I play as white. So we take the pawn. Yeah, take the pawn and okay, queen d4, check the king. King goes to h1, e5. Okay, let's fight back at the center and open up this diagonal. Potentially we can move the knight to g4 and then f2. Yeah, that's good. Knight f3, queen go back. Knight c4, take. And I think black can win the pawn. Take the pawn and knight e4. Yes, we can win the pawn. And also threatening knight f2. I think black is better. Rook e1. So now the game turned into endgame and black has up one pawn. So next question is, how can we maximize our advantage? So I would say the general strategy is to trade the minor piece or rooks, so to simplify the game. So if we only have king and pawns, and if we up one pawn, so the advantage is huge. So I will move knight to f2, check the king, and then knight h3 to trade one of the bishop, because pair bishops are usually an advantage. If we have pair bishop, we are better than our opponent, especially this is an open game. So knight f6, this is a bit passive. Bishop e6, knight d6. Yeah, so white is trying to trade the knight with our bishop. And we can see how powerful the pair bishop are. d7, bishop f5, want to trade the rooks, it's good. Rook e6, knight g5. Kick knight away. And rook c8. Well, it's not quite clear the purpose of this move. Maybe we want to protect c5, but we already have a knight protect c5, so maybe use another rook is a bit redundant or unnecessary. So if I play as black, I'm thinking maybe move the king to f7 and rook e8 to control back the central file, or f6 bishop g6 to offer a rook trade. So in the end, we have to control one of the open file, or rook d8. That's also something I can consider. And once we move the knight, we can control the d file. So rook c8 is not something I would recommend. Knight h4, knight g6, that's a really good move. So white is offering a trade. Should we take the knight? I don't think so. As I said, our bishop is powerful than a knight. So I will still move the rook to d8 to potentially control the open file. We take the knight, And now white have pair bishop, and we have double pawn. So this, yeah, this minimize our advantage at with one more pawn. Knight f6. So we need to protect the pawn, right? Maybe push the pawn to g5. Knight f6 will lose c5. Knight d8, and I'm really afraid we'll lose another pawn. Rook e5. Why don't we play b6? Because I mean, the bishop is targeted at b7, so I think we should play b6, which can make two pawns safe at this moment, and also we can like attack c3. Knight f7. Yeah, we lose the pawn. That's not good. The bishop is super powerful at this open game. It can block our rook, and also because this is a long range piece, it can also be a good attacker with a rook. So the bishop controls way more squares than our knight. Well, I don't think this checks makes sense because it just activated the king, and we didn't get anything, right? Can we play g5? Maybe we need to protect the pawn and pushing the pawn like at a higher position. So usually, in the end games, if we have pawns at a higher position, that's something, yeah, better than stay the pawn at the lower ranks. Okay, check, and the king goes from h1 to f3. We take the pawn. No, I will not consider taking the pawn, because taking the pawn, we only have double pawn. So if I play h4 and later if I can win h2, I will have a pass pawn, and this h4 pawn is protected. That's something, I mean, we can utilize. But after pawn exchange, we don't have any advantage at the king side. Okay, so we're done with two pawns. So white is going to win basically, and I don't think if white plays correctly, I don't think black have a chance. This is connected pass pawn. They're super powerful, and rook b6 pushing the king away from the pawns and offer a trade. In this case, white can move the king closer to the pawn. That's very good. Yeah, the king is going to this space. That's very smart, because the pawns can block the checks from like upper side. I think white plays wisely, offering rook trade, and we have a passed pawn. Yeah, and then white is winning. So I think black did well in the opening, and we won the pawn. When the game turned into endgame, we have some advantage. And the next question is, how can we convert the advantage to winning? So I would recommend, I think in general, so if we can trade the knight with the bishops, if we can keep the bishops, so we can have better position. And another thing, I can maybe go back to illustrate what I'm saying here. So I think winning the pawn is really great. And the next, one critical moment is if we can trade one of bishop, that's good for us. And I think another thing is we need to find a better place for a rook. I think rook c8 is being passive. Yeah, and also trading the bishop with the knight is not a good choice, because first of all, I said bishop is powerful than the knight at open position. Another thing is, after trading the bishop, we realize the rook has opened up the e file, right? So that's the reason our defense is broken. So the rook is being active, and this bishop are really powerful, and so that's the reason we lost.